Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I was reminded of this story a few years back. I've had the opportunity to visit the home I grew up in Houghton, Michigan. Houghton, Michigan is about 4 hours north of Green Bay. It's in the Upper Peninsula. My dad taught at Michigan Tech University, and we moved up there when I was 8 years old. I consider it home. I get back there quite often. But anyhow, we had a great house. It was situated on an inlet lake of Lake Superior called Portage Lake. 75 feet of lakefront property. It was the dream. It was a dream. And I won't go too far into that. But I visited the house and went to my room, and the doorway to my room was a chin-up bar, and that certainly brought back memories. I don't know why, but my dad put up a chin-up bar when we moved there. There was a chin-up bar that led into my room, and it was there until I was about 10. And then my cousin happened to be visiting, and I don't know how it happened, but there was some sort of conversation about the chin-up bar, and then a bet ensued that I couldn't do 10 chin-ups, and I said I could. And I had a week to do it. I had a week to get ready. And so that was my goal, right? To do these 10 chin-ups. And so I just embarked on, okay, every time I go into my room, I'm going to do 3 chin-ups. And every time I leave, I'm going to do 3 chin-ups. And that was just something that I did as I, went about my day for that week. And then lo and behold, at the end of the week, I did. I hit 10 chin-ups, and then I continued that practice for years. I can't say when I ultimately stopped doing it, but that led me into other sort of morning calisthenics, push-ups or whatever. It was just, I didn't know anything about exercise. I just knew of push-ups and squats and wall sits and stuff like that. But that really kind of set me on the path of, okay, you got to have goals. You got to be always looking for things. And I remember always having goals, through grade school, want to be on the honor roll, want to do this, want to do that, getting into high school, I want to make all conference, I want to be a starter, there were always things that were out there, aspirations or goals. And I didn't really know a whole lot about it, about goal setting. Who does as a kid? But then I've learned a lot as time has gone on. There are SMART goals. Our goals need to be specific. They need to be measurable. They need to be attainable. They need to be relevant. They need to be time bound. And people have other words for that acronym. But it's all basically the same, and then I know people who have prefixes and suffixes to that just to kind of further elaborate on it. And there's certainly a lot to say, a lot to be said about that, SMART goals. But what I have discovered when I say recently, in the last 10 years, is goals are great, and I've had lots of them, and I've had lots of failures around my goals, not hitting my goals. And I've always kind of consoled myself with, okay, it's okay not to hit your goals. Because you want them to push you. But I was always uncomfortable with not hitting my goals because it's like, yeah, I didn't hit my goal, but geez, I don't know what I could have done differently. And then I started to realize, and probably read it somewhere, that there are really 2 types of goals. And there's lots of ways you can look at goal setting and whatnot, but there are really 2 types of goals. And yes, this is going to get back in and around to networking. There are result goals. I'm going to make X number of sales this month. That's a result goal. And then there are activity goals. I'm going to make X number of calls this month. Now, the thing with result goals, I'm going to make X number of sales, is you don't necessarily have control over that. You don't have control over whether somebody's going to buy. You can get in front of people and the economy tanks, or you have a competitor that undercuts you, or a whole host of different things that can intervene to make it that you don't hit your goal. But with activity goals, those are things that are entirely in your control. If I'm going to make 10 calls a day, I either make 10 calls a day or I don't make 10 calls a day. It's entirely up to me. Now, there might be things that intervene and make it difficult for me to make 10 calls a day, but it's really up to me. Well, I'm only at 5. It's 4:30. I just need to stay a little later, or come in a little earlier, or whatever it is, or make up those calls the next day. But those things are entirely in my control. And so what I have really been a fan of as of late is getting people, with respect to networking, is it's okay to have a result goal. It's okay to say, what, I want to win the company trip. That's my goal. Um, and depending upon what that entails, it might work out, it might not work out. You don't necessarily have control over it. I know people would argue, well, you do have control over it. Yeah, but you really don't. If something happens, intervenes at the last minute, and somebody doesn't make a sale or it doesn't work out, you're out. There's nothing you can do, and it's beyond your control. But you do have control. You do have control over the activities, and so that's what I try to encourage people to do with respect to setting goals. It's fine. Have a result goal. That's great. Just put it out there and shoot for it. But what underlies that needs to be an activity goal, something that you have total control over, that really feeds into that result goal. And again, there's no guarantee on hitting the result goal, but if you tackle the achievement, if you tackle, or excuse me, not the achievement, if you tackle the activities, you're much more likely to hit the results. And so this is something I've really been pushing on with respect to the chapters in AmSpirit Business Connections, the people I know out there who are networking, who are not necessarily involved in the organization, even the franchisees within AmSpirit. Hey, listen, and I've asked some of the franchisees, some of the directors, hey, what's your goal? What's your 3-month goal? What are you looking to do? And they've come back and they've got result goals. Well, I want to do this. Okay, that's great, but you have no control over that. You have no control whether that happens or not. You've basically set that goal, and it's like, okay, now what? You just gonna hope? Hope is a horrible strategy. And what I've come back is encourage them to say, okay, have an activity goal. Have something that you can say, yeah, my result goal is this, but here's my activity goal. Some of the activity goals that I've gotten back from franchisees is as simple as, I'm going to have coffee, reach out and invite somebody I don't know to have coffee once a week. Every week have coffee with somebody that I've never met before, just as a way to kind of get them out of their comfort zone, meeting with people, getting the word out about AmSpirit Business Connections. I've had a goal over the last several years of doing so many professional programs, getting out and finding opportunities to do professional programs. And to a degree, I don't entirely have control over that. But with social media, LinkedIn Lives, things of that nature, you can create the opportunities. I can create the opportunities. I can invite people in. I tell people my minimum audience is 1. That's my activity goal. I want to do so many of these over the course of the next 3 months or the next year, just depending upon what's going on. Knowing that when I'm doing those things, or the person who's meeting with people, knowing that maybe something doesn't come from that, but nothing comes from not doing it. You're guaranteed nothing will come if you don't do it, if you don't engage in the activity. There's no guarantee you're going to make a sale. And there's no guarantee you're going to make a sale if you commit to making 10 calls a week, but you're much more likely if you've got that activity set there. I've got a franchisee who's committed to just getting out and getting flyers out, just handing flyers out, going into a business area, going door to door and just handing flyers out about AmSpirit. It's a little different. It's not typical. He knows the areas where he's working and it works well. I know of another group out in the Boston area, same thing. The communities are just different there. It's just, people come to a central area, and whereas when you get into other parts of the United States, more in the Midwest, things might be a little more spread out. And so it might not make sense, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's the notion that, there's an activity and you're going to embark upon that activity. Of course, sending out so many emails, making so many calls is another form of an activity goal. I have one chapter I work with, and they've just challenged one another. It's like, listen, we have no control whether we're going to grow our group. We have absolutely no control. And we have no control whether any guest shows up. We no control. People tell us they're going to be here. We take them at their word. They don't show up. All we have control over is that we invite people. And so they've embarked on this campaign just to invite people. Everybody invite one person every week. And you stop and do the math. You can figure out how many people are in the group, how many invites are going out. And in addition to how many invites are going out, you're also keeping track of, or they're keeping track of it. Well, so many going out per week, and then so many out per month, and then so many out per quarter. And they've set a goal around the quarter. This quarter we want X number of invites to go out, and to keep a count on it, to be accountable to it, they've set up a Gmail account or a Gmail address that everybody blind copies to, just to keep people accountable to it, to keep people accountable to the activity goal. They can't control the results, but they can control the activity. So as you think about networking, think about how you can create an activity goal around your networking, whatever it might be. What's the goal you can set for yourself to ensure that you're doing the things that will give you a better opportunity of creating results. That's what you need to focus in on. That will give you more peace of mind with respect to things. Years ago, when I was first starting out I was an attorney in private practice, and it was feast or famine, right? And my wife told me, she said, you know what, I don't know what's worse, being around you when you have no work or when you have tons of work. And I told her, I can tell you right now, I would prefer to have tons of work than not have work. Because when you have tons of work, at least then you have something to manage. When you have nothing going on, there's really nothing to manage. And kind of the same notion with respect to activity goals. It's like when you've got an activity, there's something you can do. But if you're just sitting and waiting for a result goal to happen, it can drive you insane. Just, the sitting and waiting and then hoping upon hope that something happens. So figure out some activities around your networking. I'm going to go to so many events. I'm going to, talk to X number of people. I'm going to invite so many people. What are the things that you have in control? Create goals around those and just lean into making them happen. When you lean into making them happen, something good will come from it.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.